Hello and welcome to Game Gumbo. Today we're talking about Zorro the Dice Game from Pull the Pin Games. And eventually we're going to talk about their new Kickstarter, which is launching in May. But first I wanted to show you the base game and the expansion that's already available and how they play. So Zorro the Dice Game plays 2 to 6 players. It's a fairly lightweight dice rolling and set collection game that plays in about 15 to 30 minutes. On a player's turn, they're going to select one of the 4 heroic feats that are available to attempt for that round. If they succeed on the feat, they're going to gain the equipment card that's underneath them. They also have the opportunity of drawing blind from the top of the deck. But say I'm playing the red player, and on my turn, I want to attempt this feat. I can ask another player for assistance, and if they do, that'll help me during my turn, but they don't have to agree. If they do and I succeed, they also get to draw an equipment from the top of the deck. So hopefully they want to help me out. Once I've selected the feat I want to attempt, I'm going to roll all 6 of the starting dice and essentially just trying to end up with these symbols listed on the bottom of the feat here. So I'll keep these 2 reds here and also this taunt roll. And I have a total of 3 rolls to try to succeed at this feat. So I'll roll again, and I have succeeded without assistance. Because I've succeeded, I'm going to take this feat card and put it in front of me. It becomes part of my tableau. I also get to keep this equipment card, or I can draw a blind from the top of the deck and put this one on the bottom of the deck, but I think I'll hang on to it. The equipment cards are pretty self-explanatory. This one, for instance, just gives me 1 free blue symbol during my turn, so making anything that requires a blue symbol easier for me for the rest of the game. If you fail at a heroic feat, nothing bad happens. You just end your turn and the feat will stay out in play. Since I succeeded, we're going to go ahead and replace this with a new feat from the deck. And then it would be the next player's turn to go. That's going to continue on for several rounds. There are 2 ways that the game ends. The first is that the heroic feat deck runs out, which is unlikely. At least I haven't seen it happen yet. The second revolves around these sets of cards you see here off to the left of the screen. There are 2 cards in each of the 4 colors, so yellow, blue, green, and red. And these are the scoundrel and villain cards. The way these work is with set collection. So during my first turn, I acquired this yellow card. If later in the game I were to acquire another yellow card, I will have 2 in front of me and I will unlock the first of 2 yellow dice. This die will go to my die pool and only I will roll it during my turn. I also activate the Scoundrel, which is the top card of that deck. And starting from where I was and going in player order, each player is going to have an opportunity to fight this Scoundrel. So if I was a red player, then immediately the white player attempts to fight this Scoundrel. If any player succeeds, they get a premium equipment. But this Scoundrel will continue to fight people until either somebody succeeds or it gets back to the player who activated them, who has an opportunity to defeat them. If they fail, it gets discarded from the game. Scoundrels have the symbols that they require, but they also have a special ability, such as this one that says you cannot use common equipment while you fight him. You can, during the course of the game, fight several of these scoundrels. So maybe later in the game, somebody acquires 2 green cards, so they fight the green scoundrel, and then 2 blue cards, so we fight the blue scoundrel. You're only ever going to fight 1 villain card, however, and that happens in one of 2 ways. Either one player will acquire 3 cards of the same color, so for instance 3 blue cards or 3 yellow cards, or 2 players will each acquire 2 yellow cards. So earlier during the course of the game, I acquired 2 yellow cards and unlocked this die. If another player were to also acquire 2 yellow cards, they would unlock the second yellow die, which they would get, and it would also activate the yellow villain. Now all players are going to fight the villain, whether somebody succeeds or not. And they also have a special ability This one, for instance, prevents you from using premium equipment while fighting him. While you're fighting the villain, if any player fails to defeat the villain, they're going to tip over their meeple in the middle of the board to show that they were defeated by the villain. After everybody has encountered the villain, you check to see how many people are left standing in the middle of the table. If there's more than one, then you're going to go to a duel. And that's essentially where all the players are going to go one at a time and roll all the dice, taking their 3 rolls, trying to get as many swords as possible. Whoever has the most swords is going to win the game and become the next Zorro. And that's how you play the base game of Zorro the Dice Game. There is already one expansion available for the game, and that is the Heroes and Villains expansion, which adds a lot more of the same content to the game. So one of the things it does is it allows you to play with up to 8 players. So there's 2 more player pawns available. There's also rules for a solo game, and there are more cards to add to the game. So more feats in each of the colors, more premium equipment, and more common equipment that gets added to the respective decks. Finally, you have additional villains and scoundrels in each of the 4 colors. And this is probably the biggest change to the game, because now that you have more of these cards than you need, you're actually going to shuffle them before the game. So you'll shuffle up all 3 of the blue scoundrels before the game begins. And then you'll put one of them face down. So you'll choose randomly, put one face down, and that'll be your blue scoundrel for the game. So instead of having the same scoundrel each game, you'll have a random one, and you won't know which one you have until they're activated and you have to fight them. Pull the Pin Games is launching a Kickstarter for the newest expansion to Zorro the Dice Game, and that is the Stunts and Allies expansion. And just like the first expansion, this adds more content that you're already familiar with. So there's more premium equipment and there's more common equipment that's going to be added to the game, and those will just shuffle into the respective decks. There's also a new set of villains and a new set of scoundrels. So for a total of 4 of each now. Probably the biggest addition is these allies. So at the start of the game, each player is going to be dealt 1 ally, and there's more than enough. Even in an 8-player game, you won't use all of these allies. Your ally starts at level 1, and you'll have a little token to mark their level. And they may give you a special ability. Sergeant Garcia, for example, his special ability starts the game. You start with it at level 1, and his ability is that you can force another player to help you on a heroic feat. So we talked about earlier, you can ask another player to help you. What does that give you? Well, it allows you to roll the dice 4 times instead of 3 times. If you have Sergeant Garcia, you don't have to ask. You can just tell somebody. Unfortunately, your ally also has a penalty, which is another symbol that you're required to fulfill regardless of what feat you select. So even if I decide to do this blue feat here, which takes 2 swords and 2 of the green icons, I now have to add a yellow icon into it as well. The expansion also adds these stunt tokens, which you will start with 1, and then there'll be 1 on each level of your ally. So every time they level up, you'll get an additional 1. These tokens let you do 2 different things. First thing they let you do is if you start your turn on a feat and you roll your first round of dice and they aren't helping you much on that feat, you could spend a stunt token to switch to another feat on the table. So if I started here and rolled a lot of red, I could switch to over here and then go into my second roll. The other thing these stunt tokens allow you to do is at any time to re-roll 3 dice. And there are quite a few different allies, as you can see here. Felipe, for example, has 2 special abilities. When he's level 2 or higher, you can have 1 extra common equipment. You can normally only have 3, so he allows you to have 4. And if you get him to 5th level, you can even have a 5th common equipment. At any point, if you get your ally to max level, you get an extra die, and that's for the rest of the game. So how do you level up these allies? Well, the first way is by failing a feat. If you attempt a feat on your turn and don't succeed, your ally is going to level up. It's kind of like a consolation prize. However, at the end of your turn, once you've done trying your feat, you're also going to put out one of these tokens. So you get a total of 2. One tracks your ally's level. The other one, you're going to put on any feat that's available. And if another player completes that feat, your ally is going to level up. And obviously then your token would return to you. But that's all the changes that the Stunts and Allies expansion is planned to make to the base game. Now, please do keep in mind that this is all prototype material, and rules and content may change between now and when the Kickstarter launches. As for the Kickstarter itself, they'll also have a lot of the upgraded items that were available during the original Kickstarter also available in the new one. That includes things like the collapsible Zorro dice tray, which is really nicely made. They also have a dice cup that they make with a little compartment on the bottom to actually store your dice. And then they have a set of upgraded dice that you can use during the course of the game. So these are the standard dice that you get in the base game. And then here are the upgraded metal dice that they will have available during the Kickstarter. And these are completely metal dice. They're very weighty, so be careful what table you roll them on. But that's it. That's everything we have to show you today. That's the base game of Zorro the Dice Game, the first expansion, Heroes and Villains, and then a preview of the newest expansion, Stunts and Allies, which will launch on Kickstarter sometime in June.